Hey there, this is Chef Joe again, Chef Joe on YouTube and Instagram. I'm gonna have a little fun with these beautiful ramps that I picked. So since I got a bunch of them, I'm gonna do a little bit of a preservation with them. We're gonna go with two different techniques. We're gonna go pickling with some of them and ferment some of them. For the pickle, I'm using some vinegar that I made. It's a little side project that I will dive deeper into in another video, but this is a rosé wine from Provence turned into a vinegar, and a couple flavors we'll go over in that. And then for the fermented, think about like sauerkraut or kimchee, we're going to take a Korean flavor profile with mostly the greens of the ramps, and we're going to ferment them into a variation on a kimchee. Let's run through the ingredients and start it up. So we're going to be using about 30 pieces of ramps here. They are the main ingredient. 70 grams cilantro is about 3/4 of a bunch, but we will be measuring it. Just roughly chop the leaves and slice the stems. We got 2 inches of ginger and 2 cloves of garlic. We're gonna peel them both, and then we're gonna grate them with this fancy dancy little tool here called a microplane. Very handy. We're gonna be using some organic gluten-free soy sauce because my wife's got celiac, and gochujang, which is a Korean fermented chili pepper paste. Because we are fermenting this, we do need to be exact with our measurements. So of our 350 gram ramp greens, we ended up with 10 grams of garlic and 50 grams of ginger, and then 8 grams of salt. The basic ratio for fermented vegetables is 2.5% salt. But since we have salty ingredients like soy sauce and gochujang, I adjusted the recipe slightly. And then we are going to be using a fermentation crock, but mason jars could also work. Now, as we transition into our pickled recipe, we're going to take a half of a lemon and use this vegetable peeler to take the peel off of it. A couple cloves of garlic, which we're just going to peel and thinly slice, and a half a bunch of dill left whole. We're going to take 4 jars, going to fill them about halfway full of the ramps, and then in each jar, going to distribute evenly the lemon peels and dill. For the pickling liquid, I've got a tablespoon each of coriander and black pepper. There will be 8 cups of vinegar, 2 cups of water, 1 cup of kosher salt, half of a cup of sugar, which I'm using turbinado, and the garlic. I'm going to put all of those liquids in a medium-sized saucepan, bring it up to a boil, and that's our pickling liquid, falling in the ratio of 4 to 1, 1/2 to 1/4, which I love. Pour that boiling hot pickling liquid into your jars and tighten the lids down while it's still hot. The ramps that are pickled are cooling down, and eventually you'll hear when it cools down enough, it'll suck down the lid and make this little pop. I love it. I mixed the gochujang, the soy, the garlic, and the ginger together, so I have this nice kind of thick paste. And then I'm going to take the salt, mix it in with the ramp greens and stems, and really mush it with my hands to start to pull the water out. Whew. So you definitely can tell that these are onion products. It's starting to get that strong smell. They're also starting to get a little juicy, and that's what I wanted to do first, is that salt, hygroscopic, it'll pull water out of the product, and that's what we need to start the fermentation. And now for the fun but very messy part. Now that we've got this pretty heavily massaged, I'm going to add the gochujang and then pack it into the fermentation crock. Ooh, it's getting juicy. Ooh, can you hear that?
Mm-hmm. Oh boy.
So this smells tremendous. That really strong oniony aroma. As soon as it got hit by the ginger and the gochujang and the soy, you smell this beautiful aromatic ginger, and then the spiciness of the peppers and the gochujang, complemented by the onion and garlic. This is going to be super, super tasty. I'm really excited. It's nice and juicy now. I'm going to mush it up just a little bit more and then put it into the crock, and I'll show you what that should look like before we put it in the closet for a month. All right, see you in a minute. My eyes are starting to water. I used a rubber spatula and scraped all the juices from that mixing bowl into the crock. And then now this fermentation crock has these 2 separate little ceramic weights so that you can get them in there. And once those little weights are in there, I'm just going to use a muddler, or you could use the back of a wooden spoon and just press down on those 2 weights. And as I push down, the juice will come up and it will keep all of the product inside of there submerged in liquid. Once that's submerged, we're going to, this has a little air gap on it that you can put a little water in and then put the lid on so that gas can escape but no flies or any nasty stuff can get in there. And then we're going to leave it at room temperature for maybe a month, but we'll start checking it after about a week to see how it tastes. Bubbles! Oh, it smells so good. That's a sign of fermentation. Alright, so it's been 1 week now, and our ramp kimchee is coming along really, really nice. The saltiness is actually going down. The acidity is starting to come up, which is typical in these fermented products like sauerkraut. You get a little bit of spiciness of like raw garlic or raw onion on the finish. But you can taste the peppers a lot more now. The flavor of the soy has gone down. I'm gonna give it a little bit more time. It's only been a week, which for a fermented product is pretty quick, but it's ambient temperature here in the spring in New York City, 60, 55 degrees in the apartment. So we'll give this a little bit more time, and then we'll taste the kimchee fermented ramps and the pickled ramp stems together. Following up on our ramp preservation video. Only 2 weeks have passed from April 20th. Now today's the 4th. First thing I just want to preface with is the pickles are meant to be kept in the refrigerator. They're not meant to be kept in a cabinet or in a dry storage area. These are not technically reusable jars. These are jars from, tomato sauce and cornichons, but I like to reuse things. I don't like to throw them away if I don't have to. That being said, they still work great for refrigerator pickles. They have not burped. They still have suction in them, which is gonna keep them perfect in the fridge for at least 6 months. And then as for the rampchee, the fermented stuff, be careful when you do this stuff at home. If you want to look it up on the internet, there is tons of information on how to properly jar and properly ferment, but this is the basics. People have been fermenting and pickling things for ages, and that's how they stayed alive. Here in the quarantine time, I thought it was kind of a fun thing to do with this abundant ingredient that I found here. That's my disclaimer. Before you ferment, do a little bit of research. 2.5% of salt. Make sure it's submerged in liquid so it doesn't grow mold, and you're gonna be safe. The ramps turned out really, really awesome. Funky, pungent, but salty, really, really delicious. And the rampchee turned out so good. I'm super excited to eat it. For the rampchee, I transferred it from the fermentation crock sitting at room temperature into the refrigerator yesterday, so the 3rd, so just a day short of 2 weeks. It's gonna continue to release gas as it stops its fermentation, so I left it in the fermentation crock so that any gas wouldn't be trapped inside of our jar and I'd have to burp it. So it spent a night in the fridge, and then I packed it into this jar, and it is super, super delicious. One of my favorite things is gin. My brother would say gin to win, and my fellow sommeliers used to frequent a local bar for some G's after work. But one of my favorite beverages is a dirty martini with pickle brine. Why? What's a dirty martini? Gin or vodka, maybe some vermouth, depending on who makes it, and olive brine. What is olive brine? Salt and water, so it dilutes the alcohol, okay? But if you use pickling liquid, you have salt, sugar, and acid. So when we talk about balance in food and balance in wines, we're balancing sugar, salt, acid. So when you make a dirty martini with pickle brine, you're adding sugar and acidity with the salt. And let me tell you, a pickled ramp gin martini goes down real fast. It's very, very easy. It's 3 ounces of gin, 1 ounce of pickle brine. You can use whatever gin you want, but this pickling liquid from the ramps is gonna make it hot fire. Okay, so this is a mass, a dry gin from LA. Kind of a cool small batch gin. It's got a little bit of bay leaf in it, so it plays into the savoriness really nicely. So we're gonna take a little bit of ice and chill our martini glass down. Put a couple cubes in there, let that cool while we make our drink. 3 ounces of gin and 1 ounce of pickling liquid. And now my favorite part, shake it up. Shake it good. And now, the two things are stuck together. Give it a little smack. So nice. Smells really good. That ice is just there to cool the glass down. Don't need to cool anymore. So nice. Take a little Hawthorne strainer. You have yourself here one of the finest beverages this side of the Mississippi. Because they don't grow ramps on the other side of the Mississippi. Yeah, they do, a little bit, in Iowa and whatnot, but can't get this on the West Coast, I tell you that much. Garnish, just take 1 pickled ramp stem, drop it in there, There you have a pickled ramp martini. Quarantine Express coming at you. Have a good time. I'll see you later.